This is the Solid Signal podcast for the week of December 30th, 2019. I'm technically calling this the first podcast of 2020 because I already did 52 podcasts in 2019. So in order to keep that record keeping working out, I'm calling this the first one of 2020. And I'm also doing an early CES preview. The CES, what used to be called the Consumer Electronics Show, although CES doesn't stand for anything anymore, starts a week from Tuesday. I'm recording this on a Monday, but a week from Tuesday. And the interesting question is always, what's going to be there? What is going to light me up? Every year I worry that there will be positively nothing to see, and every year I manage to be surprised at least a little bit. Of course, for the Solid Signal blog team, who are also part of the product team at solidsignal.com, there's always a lot to do. Increasingly, it's more and more closed-door meetings and meeting with folks who don't necessarily have a whole lot to say publicly because, we're involved in trying to get new products before they hit the market and not after. So we're working on stuff trying to get things moving before you know about it. And that means there's not going to be a lot of press releases. I will say this, however. I'm recording this on December 30th. And that means, as I said, we're a week and a day away from CES opening up. I have seen so far absolutely zero by way of press releases from anybody. It seems like every year we do get a little something from Dish, even if they don't actually attend the show, as they haven't in the last couple of years. But it makes me wonder, as I always do this time of year, is CES as a public-facing show, as an advertising gimmick, is it played? Is it over with? Is it something that we really enjoyed in the 2000s and 2010s, but doesn't have a place in 2020? I don't know. Which also, by way of weird record keeping, this makes this the third decade in which I will be attending the CES show. Man, do I feel old. When my first CES show was in 2006, the hit of the show was an 84-inch television that was, I want to say, something like $80,000 for high definition. It was a different time, my friends. It was a time when flat televisions still impressed people, and people paid a ton of money for them. It's hard to know what the hit of the show is going to be this year. Smart home, as I predicted, has become very commoditized, and it's getting very easy to get smart home products very inexpensively. And since we're finally seeing an alliance between Apple and Google and Amazon for a single smart home standard, I'm not sure that anybody is really going to want a non-upgradable smart home product that doesn't work with one of those three. So hard to know if that's going to be the hit of the show. It's hard to know what the focus is going to be, but I will say this. I do expect the Central Hall to be filled, as it has been in past years, with folks from the likes of Samsung and LG. I think that you'll see a lot of products there that there's no real interest in buying. For example, last year they had the roll-up television, which has not been seen or heard from since. Maybe somebody's buying it, but it's not like you're seeing it at your local Best Buy, that's for sure. And certainly not at your big box stores where you actually do your shopping for televisions. There's going to be that sort of stuff. I will say I expect more and more from the North Hall, which has turned into Auto Central. The CES show comes between the Los Angeles Auto Show and the Detroit Auto Show, and it's become an auto show in its own right. You're seeing actually new product introductions, new car introductions at the Consumer Electronics Show, the CES show, sorry. They no longer call it the Consumer Electronics Show. And that's interesting too. And it just goes to show how much of your car experience is defined by the telematics, the infotainment system, the computers that actually provide the experience, as opposed to the engine, the wheels, what have you, the battery if it's an electric vehicle. And the fact that we're really classifying cars as consumer electronics products is interesting. Another interesting thing that you will probably read about if you haven't yet is Technically, Apple is returning to this show after something like a 30-year absence, but don't think that they're actually going to be exhibiting. They're not. One of their executives is putting on a seminar, which I'm not signed up to go to because I'm not terribly interested in it. But it is a tentative move for Apple to rejoin the consumer electronics community. Throughout most of the 90s and 2000s, Apple put on its own show called Macworld, which was timed at exactly the same time as the Consumer Electronics Show. And you could always tell sort of a pall would fall over the entire show floor when the Consumer Electronics Show folks were all watching the keynote from Macworld, streaming it or listening to it on the radio or through closed circuit video. Of course, because there really wasn't closed circuit video, or it wasn't streaming video back then. That's only been recently. But when you knew that they were going to release an iPad or an iPhone or something like that, the show floor would get strangely quiet. Speaking of the show floor, I'll be reporting from the show floor for 4 consecutive days, and it should be very interesting to see if there's anything to see there after the first day. As I said, the Central Hall is sort of advertising only. It's like they hope they get the media coverage that they need on television to promote their own brands. The South Hall, where I will tend to be spending most of my time, is smaller manufacturers, and they put up this giant tent about the size of the South Hall in the South Hall parking lot, calling it the South Plaza. And it's where all of the overseas, mostly Asian manufacturers hang out. The North Hall is all automotive, and I'll be reporting on exactly what there will be to see. One of my most popular articles that I do every year, and I've done every year since 2013, at the Solid Signal blog, is one called "They Should Have Gotten the Smaller Booth," or "They Wish They'd Gotten the Smaller Booth." And you find that these are some of the same companies year after year after year put up gigantic booths that nobody visits. Take a look for it at the Solid Signal blog. Our coverage begins on Monday, a week from the day I'm recording this. So take a look. Make sure you watch frequently. It will be coverage will be exclusively at the Solid Signal blog, although we will be posting links on Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing. And I still don't know if I'm going to do a podcast at all next week, or if I'm going to run a rerun or just not do anything at all. It kind of depends on what the internet service is like in the room. Historically, I have had really, really bad internet in hotel rooms, especially at CES. The cellular service has gotten better, but in-room internet has gotten worse as they add more. People want to do more streaming, and that tends to throttle things. Anyway, so if there is not a podcast next week, you know why. Your loyal listeners, I thank you for allowing me to potentially skip a week if that does happen. Meantime, as I said, the blog team will be off to CES on Monday, and we will report everything that there is to see. Until then, have a great week. Remember to shop at solidsignal.com. They keep the lights on here at this podcast. And also, if you haven't done it yet, please click the subscribe button if you're listening to this on YouTube, or if you're listening to it through the Solid Signal blog. I always appreciate subscribers. It helps me to look better to my boss, and you can change how often you get notified about new videos, but we're looking at doing something on the order of 400 new videos in 2020, so it might just be worth a little bit of extra time on your part to see what's up at solidsignal.com. Anyway, have a great week. I'll talk to you all soon.